Although it can be hard to get into a habit of reading, reading is one of those activities that has most impacted my life, and I'm so glad that I finally got back into it. And that's why today I want to share the 5 books that have most changed my life. There's something about learning about a topic for page after page through a week-long, sometimes a month-long process where a book can get super deep and really convince you mentally of the topic that it's talking about. And you can get all these short snippets nowadays with a piece of advice or information on Instagram or YouTube, but I truly find that books are one of the best ways to cement and solidify those ideas that you wish to implement into your life and help you form habits that can put you on track to accomplish all of the goals that you'd like to achieve. Passion comes from feeling like you are part of something that you believe in, something bigger than yourself. The first book on my list is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And this was the book that got me back into reading and got me to start reading nonfiction books, which is why it's so high up on my list. Start With Why makes you understand what your purpose is, whether you're running a business or analyzing your own life or figuring out the reason behind doing anything. It asks you and makes you dive into figuring out the reason why you are doing it. So if you're not sure why you're pursuing a specific major or career path, or you're feeling a little lost, this book is fantastic for that. It uses a lot of real-world examples through businesses and people to talk about finding your why. And this is so important because it gives you motivation, inspiration, and purpose for doing anything. And that's the fuel you need to lead others and to run great organizations. For me, this book was so impactful because I actually read it as part of a book club, and that's what got me back into reading. I was able to discuss these ideas with other people, and it actually changed the way I approached my entire career ahead. I used to only think about money being the reason why I wanted a job in finance, which was my major at the time, but reading this book made me realize that I wanted more things than just money. There were reasons. I had a deeper why of what I wanted out of the rest of my life, and this book made me analyze that, and I'm forever grateful for reading this book, because without it, I wouldn't have transitioned to working in account management and sales and having the day-to-day interaction with people that I have now if I hadn't have read that book. We buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. I mentioned how I was super focused at the time of making a lot of money, but the book Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey made me think about my personal finances in a completely different way. Now, this book is a completely beginner level finance book, but that's why it was so impactful. It was my introduction to personal finance. In fact, a really good friend of mine recommended this book to me, and as I read through it, a lot of it seemed super obvious, but it was all of the grounding principles that you need to get your personal finances in check. It talks about the importance of avoiding debt and why it's so important to save money when you're young, and these are concepts that I think everybody needs to get familiar with. Before reading the book, I used to avoid my finances and try to not look at them, but ever since reading the book, I keep a monthly budget. I'm very in tune with my personal finances, and I save a lot of money because I read that book. And on top of it, financially, I come from a pretty privileged background, and reading this book made me realize how much debt is a problem to most people out there. And the book itself has allowed me to help other friends and help other people with their own personal finances because I understand those topics now. Since reading this book, I've read several other books on personal finances and done a lot of other research. I don't fully agree with every topic in the book, but I think it's the best place to start, and then it's a good idea to branch off and learn about other personal finance theories and mindsets when it relates to managing your money. You could make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. So moving away from the topic of money, I realized that there was a lot more important things in life than money, and at the top of that list was building great relationships with people, and that's why this next book is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And on the surface level, just listening to that title, it might sound like a good guidebook for an alien learning how to interact with humans. Sounds a little sociopathic. It really is nothing like that. This book is truly a masterclass on understanding how people work. And the book was written in 1936, and really people have not changed since 1936. The tips in the book are very simple, and as I read back through, really they're common sense, but they're great reminders. It's things like being a better listener in conversation or smiling more often. Some of the little things that are so influential and so impactful, but often are easy to overlook. This book is great, and I think everybody should read it. As you read through, I guarantee you'll realize, oh wow, I have friends that do those things. That's why I like them so much. And you'll realize that there's tons of room for improvement, and overall it's a great guide to just be a better person. Stay hard, or you are in danger of living a life so comfortable and soft that you will die without ever realizing your true potential. One aspect of life that I know a lot of people are always trying to improve is their physical fitness, or at least their discipline to some extent. So this next book is Cant Hurt Me by David Goggins, and I love this book. It's one of the most recent books I've read, but it already cracked my top 5 of all time most impactful books because of the actions that I took right after reading it. As you read through this book, there's challenges at the end of each chapter. I actually made a YouTube video that I'll link here where I tried all of the challenges, but any book that makes me go and take action ends up being very impactful. And that's exactly what this one does. It provides you a great framework with how to overcome failures, and it also makes you realize that you're capable of so much more. So at the time of reading this book, I thought I was doing a lot, and I really was achieving a lot of my goals. But after reading it, I set even more goals and even higher goals because I knew I was selling myself short, and I knew I was capable of more. This book just gave me so much energy, and I highly recommend anybody reads it, especially if you're in a rut. It'll definitely pull you out. So couldn't recommend this one enough. Being busy is often used as a guise for avoiding the few critically important but uncomfortable actions. And the 5th and final book of the 5 books that changed my life, this one by far changed my life the most, and it's The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. And it's another very gimmicky title. In fact, the subtext of the title says, escape the 9-to-5 and live anywhere. I personally work a 9-to-5 and love it. I have no desire to escape it, but what's hidden inside that gimmicky title and hidden inside the book is the best information I have ever read on productivity and overall designing a lifestyle that you want. Within the book, there's so many actionable activities that Tim outlines for you. He has activities called dreamlining, where you very specifically write out and plan out and figure out what you want exactly from your life. And then he has another activity to follow that up called fear setting, where it's sort of the inverse of goal setting. And you look at your fears and figure out what fears are preventing you from reaching those dreams. And it's a way to realize that the downside might not be that bad. On top of that, I could talk about this book for hours, but there's so many little nuggets of advice that I've applied to my life. It also encouraged me to start 2 separate businesses. One I'm currently still running. I would never have had my career coaching business if I had not read this book. And because of reading this book, I started listening to Tim Ferriss's podcast almost weekly, and that alone has changed my life. So I have a million great things to say about the 4-Hour Workweek. It'll make you realize that you might not be focusing on the right things. It's one thing to just be efficient, but are you being efficient with very effective tasks? Or are you just going through the motion and being efficient with things that might not matter that much? So I'll stop the rambling there. Those were the 5 books that have most impacted and changed my life. So I'm really excited to hear from you. Have you read these books? Do you like them? What are your favorite books? Leave them down below in the comments, and I will see you guys all in the next video.